Alright, welcome back to the channel. So I have a nice mix of rubbish on the desk today. So I don't know how many of these I'll get through today, but we might end up doing a series on them just to go through everything that's on the bench here. So firstly I have just an old solar panel. So this panel was part of a fold out panel that I had. I pulled it apart to try and make it into a single panel. I was going to put a glass sheet over the top of this piece here and never got around to it. I dropped the other panel and broke it. So what I was thinking is I might just put this controller on it, and I've got a couple of little clips here, so then it can just go on my battery in the shop here, and I can just use it to top up the battery that I've got here that I try and use for power when I can. I've just got this board because I just need a diode for the panel because it doesn't have one on it, so I'll just use one off this board. It's an old oven controller that blew up, got a lightning strike, and so I'm just going to pull the diode out for that one. Next we have a heap of lithium ion batteries here and this little UPS thing. So this is just a 12 volt UPS. So apparently you just put a couple of lithium batteries into here, and there's a couple of outputs there for 12 volts. And then it runs off a USB-C for charging. So then you just run it off that all the time, and if the power goes out, it just trips over and keeps power going out of the little UPS function that's in there. So I'm going to see if I can use that for like the router, so that if the power goes out, the internet stays up if we're at home. So that's what that one's for. Just a couple of little solar lights from the backyard that have been sort of watered, and I'll just pull those apart, see if I can do anything with those, get one going. If not, then I've got plenty of other bits and pieces I can do something with it and make something out of it. So next we just have a mixer, just a hand mixer. It stopped working mid mix, so I'm just going to rip it apart and see if it's a repair or a throwaway. So I'm just hoping that maybe the fuse in the motor winding went, so we can bypass that and put a new fuse on it and get that one going. I'll just move this panel out the way for the last thing. And last but not least, we have a bread mixer. So this one was I don't know if it works. It could be a throwaway, it could be a worker. So I'll test this one and just see if it works. If it does, then I'll clean it up and probably just donate it to charity if there's no desire to keep it here. So might kick off with that one first. So I'll just rearrange all the rubbish on the bench so I can actually get to it. I think because this one will be the quickest one, it's either going to work or it won't. So the cleaning up of it can be done later. So it's just a standard Breville unit. There we go, I'll tip it up so you can see it. So obviously the first thing we'll just need to do is see if the power's on for starters. Oh, got a happy beep. Yep, we have power. So we'll just start a process, basic, yep, that'll do. So the first thing it should do obviously is mix. Oh, yep, you can see that's mixing there. So the only other thing I need to do is see if it actually gets hot. So that'll be 10, bake only. Start. Okay. Well, I heard the relay click to say that it was gonna cook for me. Might just pull this out. And do the old don't try this at home, folks. Oh yeah, can feel the heat coming off that. Yep, that's definitely got some heat in it. Okay, well that was obviously a nice and quick and easy one to start with. Obviously, you know, I've only been testing it for 3 seconds, so I can't really guarantee that it's going to work. But it's worth now, you know, giving it a clean up and throwing a loaf of bread type stuff in it and seeing if it goes. So we'll park that one to one side and move on to the next one. So next we have the solar panel. So obviously I just need to pop it in the sun here and just make sure it's actually giving me power out before I even go anywhere with it. Wire strippers don't want to strip it, so I'll just do it the old-fashioned way with the cutters. Alright, so I'll just see if I've got any power coming out of here. Oh, yep. So you can see there's 12 volts coming out of that at the bottom there. So that's good. So that's not even on full sun. So, and it's got a nice layer of dust on it in there for a while. So all I'm going to do is there's basically a window behind the camera there. So I'm literally just going to lean it up against that window so that as the sun comes in the window there, it can just add a bit of extra charge to the battery just to keep it topped up. So what I've got to do next is pull one of these diodes out. So probably that one might be the easiest one to get to. I'll just grab the soldering iron and fire it up. So there's two ways of doing these. There's a proper way. All that other gear is inside, so I'm just going to be a bit bodgy and just pull this part out. It's only for a rough and ready one in here, so I'm not too concerned about it, and I do have replacements if I don't do a good job of it. So I'm just going to put some fresh solder on the joint. I'm just going to pull another component out of the way first, just to make it easier. There we go, that's that one out of the way. Alright, so I just got a screwdriver in under the board there, so you can see that just here. So I'm just going to heat the joint up and just prise the component out. Not the best way to do it, but I'm being lazy, not going back inside and getting the other bits and pieces to make it work a bit better. There we go, that's popped out okay. So next I'll just measure it to make sure it's okay. So for those of you that don't know, a diode just makes a one-way connection through for power to go through. So I'm just going to measure this the right way first. So you can see that 0.5, that's basically saying that it's going to drop half a volt when it has power going through it. So now if I try and measure it the other way around, it's not doing anything. Send back the right way again, and it's letting power through again. So it's basically just a small one-way switch kind of thing. So all I'm going to do next is just straighten out the legs on this so that I can reuse it. So all I'm going to do now is just Just going to cut this wire off a little bit shorter, and then just solder the wire to the back of the diode. So then next thing I need is just a bit of wire. So a little bit of wire from another job, and then just a couple of clips from the opening there. Just need to pull these covers off, and I'll just solder the wires back in where they've been put on here. Just going to move the panel out of the way so I don't break it in the process of trying to make this happen. That one out. Just do the taps on this one as well. Now I can solder the wire off. There we go. So I'll just tin this wire. Of course, couldn't find the solder, and of course I put it under the solar panel that I just moved. Go me. That one. That's the wires tin. Then I'll just take this solder joint back up and put the wire back in. That did not want to behave. There we go. Alright, clip that back down again. Alright, rinse and repeat with the same for the positive. Hopefully this one behaves itself. I might just crimp it down first so it has less chance to move this time. I ended up chasing that one around the table for a while. Okay, that one should be alright now. Yep, got both of those now soldered in. before I forget, I'll put these back on. I might even put them the right way around too. Alright, so now just bringing the panel back into the equation. Alright, so I've just put some heat shrink on there ready to go. Just going to solder the negative one up, and then I'll do the positive with diode next. Now, having done that, I'm now going to cut it all apart because that's not what I wanted to do, because I was putting this in first. I don't need any of the heat shrink. I need it for one bit. So I'll just put this heat shrink on. Or not, because there's bits of wire hanging off it. There we go. Try again. There we go. So I'm just going to use the soldering iron just to melt the heat shrink down. There we go. Alright, so as you can see on this, solar panel goes into there, and then the battery goes into there. So I'll just put the plugs for the battery in. And then we'll put the panel in. Alright, so I've finished wiring that up. So I'm going to move the solar panel into the sun so it's actually got some. So then I can measure the voltages coming in and out to make sure they're okay to go on the battery. Alright, so next on the queue we've got the little UPS. So I've just got some cells here. So I've just got to see which one of these cells is actually okay to go straight in. And once I've found that, then I can plug them into there, hook it up to a USB-C charger, and make sure I've got 12 volts coming out of the UPS pins on here, and then find something 12 volt that I can run off it to see if it's going to work. So these cells are reclaimed out of a Dyson vacuum cleaner. So 4 volts is good for that one. And 4 volts for that one too. There we go, that didn't take long to find a couple of good batteries. So I don't know if you can see, but basically they're two cells in parallel. So there's both negatives down the bottom here and both positives up the top. So I'll just pop these in. And I've got a little red light there. Don't know what it means. That's okay. I'll see what I've got power wise. Oh yeah, there we go. We've got 12 volts coming out of that already. So all I need now is to find something that I can actually power up with it and give it a test. Okay, so the last thing on the list that needs to be looked at, I might save these solar panels for another day. The last thing that needs to be looked at is this mixer. So it's already been verified as dead, so I'm not going to waste time plugging it back in again. So this basically just stopped, as I said earlier, mid mix, just where we had another one, and it's just a case of we'll see what has happened and see if it's worth having a go at or not. It is a slightly older one, so at least I can possibly get into it. Don't know what will happen once we actually get it apart as to whether I can do anything once I'm inside. That's the frustrating thing with a lot of modern things, is you can't repair them once you get them apart anyway. Alright, so I've got it apart this far. So there's a wire that goes all the way up the top there. So I'm going to see if I can reach in here and pull it off. I just don't want to pull on it too hard in case it's actually soldered in or something. So that leaves me the only other option of trying to get the screw out that's holding it up there. Hopefully it's only the one screw. Alright, well that's not working, so now I've got to figure out how else I can do it. So a lot of the time, most common things with these when they at least stop working when they're this age are the brushes, because they've got carbon brushes in there. And this one's had a good life. So it might just be a case of the brushes have burnt out. So I can reach the brushes, just. It's a bit tight. I've got a funny feeling that to get this off, I've actually got to get this part here off, which I don't think I'll be able to because I think it's glued on. It might not be. It might be good old school and they've clipped it on. I just realised there's actually there's one wire going up into there. There's actually another wire coming back down the back of it here. So I've definitely got to get that bit off to be able to get that wire out. So we'll see if we can get one of these brushes out and see if there's any meat left on them. I can't see how I'm supposed to do that either. That's okay. So just so you can see what I'm trying to deal with here, hopefully. The brush is literally in there, where the tip of that screwdriver's gone. And I'm just going to see if I can pull it out. It's sitting on the back of the spring. Actually looking at it, I'm just wondering now if I can get the base off this unit, which will then give me access to all the bits and pieces I need. There. There's a couple of screws on the top of the bottom here, and the rest of it's sitting in a rubber thing. So what we'll do, we're going to drop the power cord off out of here. And then there's two screws up the front front here. There's one there, one on the other side. What I'm hoping that'll do is drop the whole base off for me. And it will. Fun thing is that it's making the ejects for the beaters loose as well. So I'm assuming it's going to become a bit of a wobbly mess now. There we go. So now you can get a good view of the brushes and the motor. So we've got the motor here with its windings, and we've got the commutator there, and the brushes are just there. And as I rub it back and forth, you can hear the brushes touching it just. But it does sound like they're actually loose. So now I've just got to figure out how to get that spring off. Oh, I can see it. Something just fell off. One of the rubber mounts just fell off. That's okay. So I'm trying to do this so you can see it, but it's kind of hard. Kind of looks like these have still got a fair bit of meat on them too. So it looks like we might have to dig a bit deeper and go into the motor. So these are the two brushes. I don't know if the camera is going to show it. I'm just going to try and figure out which way my camera's going. So you can see that there's a whole heap of short lines, and then there's a big gap in the middle between those two sets of lines. I'm thinking that that's where the brushes should stop when they wear out as such. So I'm kind of thinking there's still some meat on those brushes, so I'm assuming then that we've blown a fuse or something in here. So it's now a case of if there's a fuse in this thing here somewhere, because that's where the main power comes in, or if it's got one in here, not in there, but in here, that's blown. If it's in there, then we're in trouble. But if it's in that other spot, then we'll be able to recover it. Just going to pull these two springs off because I'm going to lose them otherwise. It's just a cable tie on here. I'm just going to cut this cable tie off. So there's nothing much in that cable tie under that section there apart from just a connector, a capacitor and a resistor. So I'm assuming that the thermal fuse is in the motor somewhere. So I'm just going to see if it's under the top end of the windings or if it's a fully broken unit. So the windings on the motor itself look okay. They don't look like they're burnt. The other thing I'll just check is this switch just to make sure that's not burnt as well. Can't see anything obvious on there. Okay, so from what I can gather, there's power coming in into here. That goes up along here and then comes back down. So I'm assuming there's a fuse in here somewhere. So I've got to see how I can get this off without breaking it, because it's either glued or it's got some funny clips in there that's making it a little bit difficult to get it off. There we go, I got it out. I'm just going to cut this heat shrink off, see what's under here. More heat shrink. Okay, well that wasn't working before. Because this has been difficult, I've just gone and got a couple of clips just to hold it on, so that I can measure stuff without having to try and figure out where my probes are at and whether they're still connected or not. Okay, this one's tracking the active as it's coming in, so it's definitely going in there, definitely going in there, definitely coming up here. Okay, so power's definitely getting through there. That's the turbo button to make it just basically go straight to full speed. So there's power going into the main coil here. And there's power going to the other side of the main coil there. So because this has got different speeds on it, all these different wires control different speeds. Alright, so clearly I need to do a bit more work. I'm going to put this one back together and fire it up and see how it goes. So I think I'm going to do that as a second stage to this particular video. Alright, so thanks for watching the short video here of the multiple repair and upgrades of things that I've been doing. I'll get around to part 2 hopefully next week, and I'll send this one up. And don't forget to give it a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.